In the tapestry of life, where every thread holds a story, America in black and white emerges as a haven for the voices echoing through the heart of our communities. In this podcast, we wade through the rivers of our collective experiences, celebrating the vibrant hues of change brought forth by the whispers of hope and the roars of action. It's more than just a conversation. It's a journey into the heart of our society, illuminated by the light of those daring to dream and do. Join us, and let your voice be the melody that guides us toward a dawn where every color finds its place in the masterpiece of our shared destiny. Together, let's paint a future brimming with the positives that dwell in our minds and the actions that shape our world.
Happy Sunday afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of America in Black and White. I'm your host, Charles King, and I want to introduce you guys to our special guest today. There are people whose lives become a blueprint for resilience, leadership, and transformation. People who rise from challenging beginnings and turn those experiences into fuel, not just for their own success, but for the success of everyone they touch. Today, we sit down with a man whose journey reflects the power of purpose, the strength of service, and the impact of showing up for others. From Florida to the national stage, from after school classrooms to mental health coaching, from community advocacy to academic excellence, his story is one of commitment, compassion, and continuous growth. This episode is about the work that shapes young people, the systems that support them, and the leaders who dedicate their lives to building environments where students can thrive. It's about the intersection of education, wellness, creativity, and human development. And it's about honoring the people who shaped him, the family members whose influence continues to guide his mission. Let's welcome our guest, Dwayne Wiggins Jr. Hello,
Good
sir.
morning, good afternoon. How are you
I am excellent. How are
today?
you, sir? Well, welcome to the show. And is there anything that you'd like to say to the audience before we get into the show?
I am just so grateful to be here. I was listening to the intro. I don't think I've ever had an intro like that in my entire life. So I'm so grateful for that. And I'm just so grateful to be here and just happy Sunday to everyone all the way from San Diego, California today.
Well, I appreciate that. And, I want to get into the show where I want to start, where I want people to get the opportunity to learn a little bit more about you as we go through the show today, because your journey is definitely one of inspiration and motivation.
Thank you
Can you
so much.
tell us, can you tell us what was it like growing up as the eldest of five in a single parent household?
It was hard but exciting at the same time. You know, one of the things that's been so fascinating about my life is growing up in a small town in Florida. I always joke and often say that it's so small, it's so country. Even the people that live there, they don't pronounce it correctly. So it's one of those things to where I had my siblings and we really depended and leaned on each other. We had each other, like from playing school, from playing church, or whatever the case may be. Being able to be in a household, being the oldest of five, not only offered opportunity to lead my siblings, but also to be a support to my mom as she worked hard, even going to school and all the things that she did to make sure that she can provide for us. So it was definitely rewarding. I it's not a title that I take lightly. I enjoy being a big brother. I will say that.
Mm. So, can you tell us what put San Diego in play? How'd you wound up in San Diego?
Oh, where do I start? Do we have enough show space for this today? It's one of those things. So, just to give some backstory, I've been visiting San Diego. I'll say almost close to 25 years now. My uncle Stacy, who is no longer with us, who I was extremely close with. We shared the same birthday. One of my most favorite people in the world. Um, Lived here in San Diego. He was stationed here in the Navy. And just a little backstory on my uncle. He was someone that I really looked up to. Like he was someone that, in the town that I grew up in Florida, he was the one that was the blueprint of getting out. Pretty much, like you have that one individual that got out. He went to the Naval Academy. I saw him on TV because he played football for the Navy. He had opportunity like to travel the world, and when he moved to San Diego with his wife, I was able to visit them. I was able to come out and visit, and that was around my sophomore year in high school, I believe, that I had an opportunity to come and visit with him. And so the more that I came to San Diego, I just found it to be one of my favorite places to visit. It was one of the, honestly, I believe became one of my favorite places because it was one of the only places I visited. The very first time I ever was on an airplane, I flew to San Diego. So it was one of those things. So the more I came to San Diego, I just started to develop memories here of with my uncle and my aunt, being able to cook with him or being able to see just beautiful scenery and mountains and things that I've never seen before. So the more I was able to visit, I started to grow really fond of the city. So then my sister, who is here in San Diego still, moved here. And so I started to visit more. Then there's nieces and nephews. And it's one of those things to where I always felt like I wanted to live here. Something would happen in life and I would just be like, forget it all. I'm moving to San Diego. Then life would turn back okay. Then I'm like, I'm going to stay where I'm at. Then something else would happen. I'll go through a breakup or whatever. I'm like, F everybody. I'm moving to San Diego. And it never happened. But this particular last year, I felt like the stars and everything just aligned itself for me to be able to do that. So I felt like, why not seize the opportunity to come? It's an organization that I currently work with called Boost Collaborative, host a big conference every year, about 4,000 educators that come from all around the world to learn about after school, before school programming, in school programming. And so I've been presenting with them almost 5 years. And so when this particular year, just in 2025, I decided to say, you know what, I'm going to give it a try. If it works out, it works out. If it doesn't, it doesn't. So I decided to move here and I'm here now. So,
Wow.
so I always say it's been like 20 to 25 years in the making.
Okay. So, how did your upbringing shape your sense of responsibility and leadership?
That's a great question. I will say, being with my siblings, that was like the first um, form of leadership that I don't think I realized while I was doing that. I was just doing a big brother. I was just doing what I love to do is, be with my siblings. My mom was not a person that you go stay the night at everybody's house. It's like you guys have each other. It's 5 of y'all. Play with each other. And I have a cousin who is like a sister to us. If you wouldn't know no different. And she would come. So technically it was 6 of us in the house. And I just remember I was in 2009, I was at this conference and someone said to me that if you think about the things that you're doing now in your life, if you look back in your life, you were already setting yourself up to do those things when you were a kid. So everything that I've done, when I look back over my life and take an evaluation of the things that I was doing, I'm actually doing those things today. So I think about when I was playing school and my sisters would tell you, like, I learned my stakes and capitals from my brother because I was always the teacher, so it was like I would tape them on the wall, and we would they would have to come up and match the stakes and capitals. And I think I was like 10 or 11, and we were doing that. Then we would play news. My grandmother had this really humongous video camera, and I was always the director behind the camera, and I was also showing them and telling them what to do. And this was around 12 or 13. We would play church, and I always had to be the pastor. And whenever we would do the offering part, all the money had to come to me. I just thought that's how it went, right? So I've always been in these positions of leadership just within my household. But the more I started to think about like my school journey, from elementary school all the way to high school, I always found myself in some type of leadership position. And I was a drum major of my band in 8th grade. I was a drum major of my band in high school. I was always leading people, and it would become naturally. Not that I even realized that I was leading people. I was just the one that could make the decision, make the thing happen, and we were going to move forward. I had the voice, and people would just follow and do whatever I say, pretty much.
Oh, wow. So, that natural innate leadership is the best, is the best thing because as you grew, apparently the qualities got better.
Yeah, and it's one of those things to where I I really didn't know how to articulate what it was or even define what it was to be a leader. I just knew that during my childhood that I was just always in these positions. I was 16 years old at a church um, as the youth leader of youth at 16. So it was just always these things that just always would put me, always these situations that would put me in leadership positions. But it wasn't until I became an adult and I started to realizing that there was a gift in that, because it was like the power of influence for me. It was that I knew that if I said something or was able to do something, that I could rally the people, like I could get them to do whatever I needed them to do, or whatever the mission was, whatever the mission of whatever project or anything that I was involved in. And not in a manipulative way, but I could always see the vision. And I consider myself to be a visionary because it's one of those things that when people talk about a project or something that they want to do or want to establish, by the time they're done, I already have a vision of how to make it happen. And it's like, I always say it's a blessing and a curse because sometimes I just want the curse of it is I just want to mind my business sometimes. But the blessing in it is that I'm able to help cultivate people into the thing that they desire to do. So it's like when I think about my innate ability to be able to lead people, once I was able to identify that I was a leader, because I was doing these things not really knowing that I was a leader or even had the power to influence others. Once I realized this is what it was, I began to take like leadership classes, go to leadership training, put myself in positions to where I was able to learn from other people that were leading people as well.
So, what moments from your childhood still influence your work today?
You coming really great with the questions today. I tell you, I think about you know in the role that I'm in now, I currently work in after school program, and I'm really, I call myself an ambassador or an advocate for after school programming or any type of programming that helps influence students to be them best selves. I think about the times when I was growing up in my household, and we grew up poor in my household. I jokingly say we grew up poor. We couldn't even afford the O and the R. We were poor in our household, and I think about the times that when our lights were off or when we didn't have food or whatever the case may be. And I think about all of the people that helped us, like there were different churches or organizations or whatever the case. And I felt that in the work that I do is that when I would have families, I started working in after school programming when I was 19, at the Skill Day Center in Ocala, Florida. And I would have people talk to me about like how their electric was going to be turned off, or they were not able to afford this or whatever the case may be. So I remember the resources that were offered to me. So I would tell them like, hey, I know this church that will help you or whatever the case may be. So when I think about the sacrifices my mother had to make and some of the connections she was able to make, I thought about those same connections for me, to be able to help others. So I became like a resource hub for families. And that's why I'm really passionate about families today that are working in schools and after school, because I am able to do the research and provide the resources to support them because I know what it's like not to have. But I do know that there are people out there that are willing to support. So thinking about, my childhood and when we didn't have Christmas gifts, and then there were organizations that gave to us, a lot of those organizations are still around today, so I'm able to provide those resources to others.
So, when did you first realize you had a passion for mentoring others?
I think it's all my life. When I realized it, probably was in my adult life, but now in my adult life, I'm able to go back and reflect and see that that's always been my life. I've always wanted to um, lead with love. I tell people that often. I know that I can come off kind of hard sometimes in my delivery, because I really just believe in people, and sometimes I want them to see what I see in them. But when I think about, you know, really encouraging people and trying to help them to see them best selves, I think it's been my entire life. Um, I've always wanted to be a person that would just lead with love. I know what it feels like to not be accepted. I know what it feels like to be talked about right in front of your face, and people don't think you hear them in conversations. I know what it's like to not have. I know what it's like to have. I know what it's like to feel alone and misunderstood and isolated and all of those things. And I know how it made me feel, even in the times where I felt like I didn't want to be on this earth anymore, that I was like, maybe I'm better off. So let me figure out a way that I can not be here anymore, or whatever the case may be. I know what all of that feels like, and I know how it has made me feel. And in those moments when I couldn't articulate it to anyone, or I felt like no one would even understood, or even in our culture, that even if I felt like I needed a therapist, black people don't do therapy or whatever the case may be during that time. You know, whatever that foolish crap was. I'm trying not to curse on this live, but whatever that was, um, it was like it was damaging to me growing up. So I wanted to provide a space for people. One of the reasons why I found A Human Being, because I wanted to provide a space for people, because all of that stuff that I was going through, I didn't have a person to outlet that would understand. Although I would see it all around me, it was still that thing of just feeling alone. And because other people were dealing with what they were dealing with, I didn't feel that it was right for me to put my stuff on them as well. So I know what all of that feels like. So I wanted to provide a space where people can come and talk and share, and know that they're not alone in those situations. There's not a lot of things that people have gone through that I haven't gone through or experienced, witnessed, or whatever. So when I think about in my adult life, I would say in my mid 20s, to where I really started to realizing that I can be a mentor to younger people and people of my age and older people. But I feel like this is something that it's been a calling that's just been on my life from early childhood.
Mm. Well, we got a couple of comments here in the chat.
Okay.
It's from Princess Cook 17. She says, "Good question," and then she gives you the hand claps.
Oh, thank you.
And so, can you tell us, how did Florida shape your identity and worldview?
Um, I don't know how it shaped my identity. Because honestly, the time that I lived in Florida, I don't think that I really realized who I was. I think that that
Mhm.
was a time where I was really trying to figure it out. I think that when I moved, so with my uncle, when I got graduated from high school, I didn't go straight to college. I figured out life. So I ended up moving with my uncle. We moved to California, and when we left Monterey, we went to. I was there. That's when I really was trying to figure out life. I had the opportunity while I was there. I was gonna move to Japan with my uncle for 3 years. I was so excited about that. And then 9/11 happened while living in Rhode Island, and they shut everything down. So I couldn't go. I couldn't go with him to Japan, so I had to move back to Florida, and ended up trying to figure out life. There was really no plan. I got there and got in a leadership position and continued to do some after school stuff with the Ocala Civic Theater and all of those things. But I can't really say that Florida helped me to really figure out my identity. But what I will say that it contributed to, it did help me figure out what I didn't want. So in 2008, I ended up moving to Philadelphia and was there for 17 years. So being in Florida, I don't I don't feel like it's home. But even when I go back, it helps me to realize like I didn't. There were certain things that I felt that I deserved and that I was bold enough to go after, and that I couldn't stay in this space if I wanted those things. If that makes sense.
Yeah, well, it sounds like Florida is a reality check for you. And in being a reality check, as you've ventured to various places before settling there in
Hmm.
San Diego, it was the place that it let you know that it was time to go do something different, be who you are, figure
Hmm.
that out, and just explore, grow, and be this man that you are today.
Absolutely. And I think that when I moved to Philadelphia, that was like the stretching for me to really figure out who I am and help develop my identity and to walk really heavy and bold in who I am today. Like, even thinking about Philadelphia, I miss it so, 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 so much. Even with the thought process of like, do I stay here in San Diego? Do I move back to Philadelphia? Because of the culture that I was able to develop there, the people that I was able to meet, and the impact that I know that I had there, and the impact that people are still sharing with me to this day that I had no clue that I made while living there. So it's one of those things to where I love how you put that, because Florida, like I said, to sum it up, helped me to realize that this is not the place that is going to stretch me or help me to become the person that I was predestined to be a long time ago. So I will credit Florida for that. It's a great place to visit, but not a great place for me to live.
I gotta say, look, I'm give you a kudos because that was what I realized in growing up in Alabama. It was the
Mm,
same thing. It was reality check. It's
yeah.
time to go.
Yeah. Exactly.
What challenges did you face early in life that helped build your resilience?
Wow. Um, when I really think about, wow, one of the things that I realize is doubt. I think that one of the things that helped build my resilience a lot was the doubt, not necessarily self doubt, because I knew what I was capable of. But when I think about even things from my childhood, that being on the field and being like one of the fastest runners, but couldn't understand why I would not make the soccer team, or why I wouldn't make the track team in school, and all of these different things, or even people doubting my ability to be able to do certain things, and hearing them question. I am a person that thrives in accomplishments, as far as like seeing a project, being able to complete it, like that brings me joy. So it's not a matter of in a like proving myself, but a little bit, because it's like, you doubt me, I'm going to show you what I'm capable of. And just honestly, the thing that really helped me to be really resilient is just believing that I deserve something better than what I was had, or what was presented in front of me. That I would see other people out living their best life, doing the things, and I'm like, I'm out here busting my tail, and I'm just like, I'm not living the life that I know that I deserve to live. So the resilience for me is always wanting the best for myself and those who are attached to me. So it's like I strive really hard to make sure that I am living a life that's just fruitful and bountiful.
I want you to tell me if this is correct or not, because it sounds like to me that, when in those particular situations, it sounds like all of your inner strength is what helped to build this resilience that you got that's projected you to this next level.
Yeah, that is so true. I think that a lot of times, how can I say this? I think a lot of times that one of the things that I say as a mantra to myself is that you are your only limit, right? Like, the only limits that exist are the ones you place on yourself. So I challenge like the boundaries and just watch myself soar. Like, because uses for what I didn't have, but what I was able to obtain. Because I feel like a lot of times in life that we make excuses for that what we don't have. And so I'm very quick to try to check myself on when I want to accomplish something, that instead of looking at the barriers, I look at, what I do have and make that work, because my mantra to myself is that you are the only limit. You are your only limit. So if I'm putting those boundaries on myself, I'm already psyching myself out of doing something. So I'm not going to accomplish it. I'm not even going to put forth. So it's like, if there is something that I want to achieve, I don't allow people to tell me otherwise. I think about the strength that I have to be able to obtain the things that I want, and I go for it. I was having a conversation with someone recently and saying, when I look back over my life, everything that I say that I've wanted to do, I've done it. And when I do it, I mean, and there's still a lot more. There's still a lot more. I'm not saying every single thing right now, but there's things that I've said that I wanted to do, and I'm doing those things. I wanted to have my dream car. I got it. I wanted to live in San Diego. I got it. And for me, it's like once I accomplish those things, whatever comes after that, so be it. Most people, a lot of people don't know this, but even thinking about moving to San Diego, I decided that if I was to move away from here, I don't feel like a failure because it was something that I wanted to do and I did it. If I wrote a book and I was so excited about that. If I never write another book again, I'm okay with that. I will, but if I don't do it again, I'm okay with that because I've done it. And I know how to just really believe, the things that I want to do and the things that I want to accomplish. So just really trust the process and have faith of really where I'm headed by accomplishing those things and being resilient in doing those things.
Well, Francis Cook 17 has another comment here, and she says, "We love and miss you, DW."
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
Um, who were the key figures in your life that pushed you toward education and service?
Wow. Key figure people, honestly, when I think about the perspective of whether they know they did or not, I think about both of my grandmothers. They really pushed me. One grandmother who taught me about life, my other grandmother taught me about spirituality. So one kept me in church and one just kept me real. Like they both kept me in church, but one was really keeping me in church and the other one was just really teaching me about life and not taking no for an answer and going forth and doing those things that you desire to do. I think about my uncle. He was the one that I saw that like physically who was able to change his life from the town that we grew up in to be able to leave and explore the world, so that I had that same desire to do that. Now when I think about it, I think about like my friends and my family that surround me. Like I said, whether they know it or not, that when they are proud of the work that I'm doing and they see and they push and they are all the way down to the people that share my posts. Like when I post that I'm doing something and they share, these are the individuals that motivate me to be able to go forth and to do those things, because that helps me to realize that there's somebody watching. So it helps me to make sure that I maintain my integrity, I maintain my character, that I don't act out when I want to or curse out people when I want to. That and I'm just able to just maintain because I know that there are people that are watching and that are looking for strength just by the work that I'm doing.
Hmm.
And my students. Oh, I got to give a shout out to my students that I work with at Belmont Charter High School, and the ones that have graduated. I know many of them will come back and watch this and see it. But even thinking about those students, when I started with Belmont Charter High School in Philadelphia, I started with the class of 2025. And now that they've graduated, I was there with them until they graduated. And that was a commitment that I wanted to make to myself, to be with them until they graduated. They started in ninth grade. I started with them in ninth grade. We finished together. And I still talk to them till this day. They're texting me. They're asking me for cash apps. They're asking me to support them in their college stuff. So it's one of those things to those students that really motivate me to continue to do this work, so that regardless of wherever I go, I'm able to motivate other students to achieve things, and teachers and staff as well.
So tell us what, after just thinking about, the and just answering that question and those things with your influence, for your students and the people that you touch. What is your self-talk as you hear that? What are your feelings and emotions as you just think about what you are contributing to society today?
I am overwhelmed with joy and gratitude. I I am really big on reflection. I spend a lot of time in the quiet. I spend a lot of time and just taking a moment to really examine myself and how I'm treating people. And I think that when I think about the work that I do, and when I'm presenting all over the United States, when I'm going to all throughout California or in South Carolina or different places that I've had the opportunity to walk into a room and present, and those individuals, there's several things. Those individuals that share with me that I just had someone say to me, I just presented in January in Modesto, California, and that was my third year going there, but second year presenting at this particular summit. And there was a lady who came out. She said that when she found out that I was presenting,
Your internet is spotty. It just went out and came back in.
okay, I'm sorry about that.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
So, yes, I can hear you.
Okay, so there was a shout out to a lady I was talking about, Miss Pat, and she said to me that she was so grateful when she found out that I was presenting, and so she came to listen to me present, and then she left and went home, and it was a 4-day conference. So it's people like that that really motivate me to come and hear what I have to say and want to listen to, you know, the words that I need to share that really make me so grateful, and it's so overwhelming, the love, because I am just a vessel. I'm just a person that have done the work, that I'm studying, I'm researching, and it's impacting people. And so that's what I'm so grateful for.
Mhm. So, how did your family respond to your academic and professional ambitions?
They were very supportive because honestly, I didn't go to college right away. Like I didn't go to college until like my early 30s. I was very, because when I left and went with my uncle, I was kind of confused with what I was going to do with life. I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know what direction to go in. And it wasn't until like my early 30s where I decided I'm going to go back to school. I'm like, I'm going to go and I'm going to get a degree and I'm going to figure this out. And honestly, in that, I was very intimidated because I went to Florida to visit the school. My school was in Florida, but I went to school online. I went to Florida to visit the school. And when I went to visit the school, as I'm going into the building to do a tour, there's all these 17-year-old students getting off a bus. And I'm like, I turned around and left. I was like, I can't do this. I'm like, I'm not, I can't. I'm like, I left. I can't do this. And so the people from the school called me and was like, hey, Dwayne, I know I saw that you checked in, but where are you? I was like, I left. I was like, I can't do this. I'm like, all these 18-year-old students are getting off the bus. I'm 30 something and I'm about to be touring with them. I'm like, I'm not doing it. They was like, come back, and we'll take you on a private tour of the school. So they did that. And so as I was going through the process of enrolling into school and stuff like that, it was the best experience of my life, you know, to be able to go and to get an education, get a degree. And as soon as I finished my bachelor's degree, I went right back for my master's degree. And as soon as I finished my master's degree, I enrolled right into the PhD program because I was learning and I wanted to be able to supply the skills that I was learning, but to be able to share with others, even at my age. Of course, like in the classes, I was the oldest one, and I was okay with that. But they had a lot. They learned a lot from me. I learned a lot from them. So I don't think that it was by happenstance the way that I ended up going to college, because I think it had to go that way. Because what I found is I was starting to mentor individuals. Then I became the president of the National Honor Society for the university. And so, and then I worked on the board for the National Honor Society. All these things are coming to my memory as we're talking. This is just amazing. But I was working on the board for the National Honor Society, and I'm mentoring like all of these young people that are looking up to me. And I'm walking into these rooms where I'm the oldest, and they invited me to come speak. It is like, I think that life's journey had to happen this way so that I can see that the purpose of my life is to continue to mentor people in whatever space that I'm in.
Mm, wow. Now that is a whole lot, and that's very powerful. I mean, oh man, that's just a lot. I'm really happy, to hear that through that and how you were able to just get through and just push because you were thinking one way instead of actually thinking you going here to make this thing happen. You
Yeah.
made it happen. That's
It
what's
is
up.
it's amazing to think about it, and I'm so grateful. So I do want to say thank you so much for this conversation, because it's like bringing back memories of things that because I've done so much, and I don't say that in a boastful, bragging way. Like, I've done so much in my life to where, and I've been in so many different rooms where I've been speaking and teaching and whatever the case may be, that it's not a lot of times until like I'm having these conversations that things come back to my memory of like what happens. And a lot of times when we think that we are supposed to go one way and we're doing one thing, is really a setup for something else. I would have never imagined that when I enrolled in school to start my bachelor's degree at like 32, 33, that I would become the president of the National Honor Society with about 1,300 online students and about 2,000 on-campus students that were a part of this organization. That, and if people go back through my social media, you will see that I'm speaking at these large crowds, or not, or even imagining once I finished that I was a part of the National Honor Society Council. Seven out of only seven of us for the United States, and we're teaching and we're talking about, education. I would have never imagined that that would be the setup. What I thought was, I'm just going back to obtain a degree, put me in spaces and in rooms and in places to only broaden my horizon, to be able to meet so many people and to really just pour into them, to encourage them to live their best lives.
Mhm. Let's transition over to your work as an educator and the after school leader that you are. What first drew you to after school programming?
Honestly, it was in high school. I thought that once I graduated high school, thought of a plan to go to college, I thought I was going to go to school to be an elementary school teacher. That's what I desired to be. I knew that I loved working with students. But when I had the opportunity to work at the Skill Day Center in Ocala, I just really started to like that. And so when I think about like even my journey in being in after school programs, I always jokingly say to people, but it's very true, I don't ask me anything about chemistry, geometry. Don't ask me any of those questions, because I promise you I will not get it right. Um, but if you ask me about relationship building and being a leader or any of those things, those were all the things that I learned in after school program. How to converse with other people, how to get and be in the same space, and how to debate, and all of these things. I learned all of that. I learned about resilience through after school programming. So when I think about what after school programming and how it impacted my life, it was like it felt only right to give back. And I kept finding myself in these spaces. So when people say, like, well, I know you had other jobs, but when I talk about me doing this work for almost 25 years of being in after school, it has been that people have hired me as a contractor to come and do things. People have hired me as a consultant to come in to talk about how we make it better. But when I think about how I got into this, I honestly just say I kind of just fell into it. Like, I had the volunteer hours that I needed to do it. I thought I was going to be an elementary school teacher. But once I started working at the Skill Day Center, I have never left after school. And that was like in my senior year of high school.
Oh, wow. So, why do you believe after school programs are essential for youth development?
That's a great question. It is so essential because this is where we really get to see the whole student. In after school programs, this is an opportunity that when students come to after school programming, this is the opportunity where you get to see their creativity. You get to see how they interact with each other. A lot of times when you're in a set space within a classroom, everything is regiment. You come in, you have this set time. This is the expectation. And not saying that in after school programs, there's not lesson plans, there's not structure, there's not a regiment that happens. But what happens is students are able to really just be themselves. They get to explore, they get to experience things that they don't experience in the school day. So when I think about some of the after school programs all across the world, that what they're doing is they're teaching students how to cook. They're teaching students in after school programming. They're getting the additional support with their academics. So the tutoring is happening after school. We're not tutoring within the classroom. The teachers are teaching, but the comprehension of it a lot of times is happening in after school spaces where tutoring is being available. Students are learning to have the opportunity to spend with their friends where they may not have classes with their friends within the school day. They have a space where they can come and after school and spend time with their friends. So they're learning about friendships. So I think the opportunity with after school programs, it gives the after school workers and site directors the opportunity to see the whole student, that we get to have an experience with students that a teacher may not get in the school day in that 40 to 60-minute block, that in after school, be it the program is 3 hours, 4 hours, or however long, we get an opportunity to see those students every single day operate in their authentic self and get to explore all the opportunities that are available in programming.
So tell us, how important is the development of your students in after school? What
It,
is the importance of that to you?
it is super important because, like I said, a lot of students, like, that's where they really learn what they want to be in life, what they want to do. If you listen to the average student, a lot of times when students talk about what they want to grow up to be, it's an astronaut, it's a lawyer, it's a doctor. But in after school programs, what I've seen in my experience, when you open up other avenues to students, they have an opportunity to explore other fields that they want to do. So, like, for example, when I was at Belmont, we had a hobby fair where we let people come out and to share and showcase their hobbies. Their adults to come out, and students were able to learn from those hobbies. And some of those students were able to turn those hobbies into businesses where they were making t-shirts, they're like doing podcasts, they're cooking, or whatever the case may be. The opportunity for students to develop and to be able to explore happens in after school, because a lot of times when you have community partners that are willing to come in to say, hey, we have this cool thing that we do and we want to present it to your students, we want to teach your students, it's an opportunity for students to be able to really see the different opportunities that the world can offer them and how they can turn these things into businesses and careers, explorations, and all of these different types of things that their minds are open to.
So, what are the biggest misconceptions about after school work?
That is a babysitting club. That, I think that's the biggest misconception, that most people think, like, oh, when we drop the kid off, it's babysitting. This after school, that's the biggest misconception. After school is not babysitting. Um, that's the biggest thing that I normally hear. Like, and honestly, people even from like people that don't get it, I'll say like teachers and superintendents. When I've worked with a lot of through Boost Collaborative, the organization that I currently am working with, when I had opportunities to present at the conference, a lot of times people have that misconception because they don't know the impact that after school has on students. So what usually happens in a school day is that you have staff that work school day. They normally come to work from 7:35 to 7:45, and they leave at 3 o'clock. And after school program is happening from 3 to 6. Those teachers, they leave, they don't have an idea of what is taking place, or those principals, they don't have an idea. And I was so grateful for the relationship that the principal at the time at Belmont and I had, that we were able to really build a relationship to talk about the focus of what after school and the impact that after school was having. So when we think about a lot of times where people don't understand because they don't take the time to really get to see what is happening. So they honestly just think that, oh, students just stay after school and they're just playing around, but they don't see the impact that is having on those students. Or some of them can see, because if a student is not passing in your class, but they're coming to after school and they're getting the tutoring, then you have to see the impact. If students know that if they don't come to school, they can't do after school program, then they have an increase in attendance. You have to see the impact. So what my encouragement is normally to those who work in a school is to really take the time to understand what after school programming is all about, so that we don't have this misconception that it's just babysitting or students are just hanging out and they're not really learning anything, any skills, or developing.
So, how did you build Ignite before and after school enrichment from the ground up?
Wow, at Belmont, I one of the things that when I first started there and they had a program, so a lot of people refer to after school program. It's called OST. It stands for out of school time. And what I realized when I was at Belmont, a lot of students did not want to participate in after school programming because when I said, "Oh, I'm here to do OST," a lot of kids were like, "Oh, that's for babies. Like that's what I did in elementary school. I did that in middle school. I don't want to do that." So my supervisor at the time allowed me to rebrand what it would look like. And so I came up with Ignite. And it was really an opportunity for students to just really ignite those things that's inside of them. So I started to do student surveys and say, like, hey, what are you interested in? Like, and reach out and get those partners to come into the school to where we were able to offer national clubs, like 4-H and key club, like different clubs that are national clubs, that I remembered having in high school. But we were also able to develop new things where students were able to learn about archery and like cooking and having girl groups and guy groups and all these different things that became student focused. Because I think one of the biggest ways to really expand an after school program is have student voice. If the students are not saying what they want, then they're not going to come, because what we feel a lot of times is that we know, as the adult, we know what's best for the kids, but we don't spend a lot of time really talking to them and asking them what they want to see and what they want to experience. So that was very important to me, to make sure that I am talking to the students and making student leaders so that they can be able and be in charge of what programming looks like in after school programming.
What does quality programming look like in an after school environment?
People showing up, students walking away gathering. I think for me, so I won an award for having, and that's a pat on my own back. I won an award for having the best quality programming in the state of Pennsylvania in 2023. And it was because our students' voice, that they had a lot of say in what it is that they wanted to do within programming, but also making sure that the administration part of it is down. Like, we have a great attendance. We're tracking documents. We're making sure that we have all the things. But great quality programming is students showing up and wanting to continue to come. Not that they just want to come on this particular day, but they want to come. They come to school because they want to come to programming. Student participation, not only that, they're inviting their friends to come and be a part of it. So an after school program where, to have great quality programming, meaning that you have a great staff that's willing to put the time in and make sure that students are engaged. That's a really huge thing. That when students are in after school program, they don't have an opportunity just to sit around and do nothing. That they are engaged in what's happening from start to finish. That there is something for them to do where it's not boring. And the program that they are a part of or what they're participating, they're walking away not only tangibly but emotionally, and I'll even go with spiritually, that they feel fulfilled when they're in programming, and they want to come back and they want to invite people to come be a part of it as well.
So, how do you train and support after school staff to maintain excellence?
I think for me, one of the things is that's always important to me is just finding out, like, what is your purpose? Like, why do you want to do this? A lot of times when we think about purpose, we think about the thing that fulfills us. But for me, purpose is really how it makes other people feel. So it's like, if you are walking in your purpose, when people are a part of your program, that means that you are doing everything in your power to make sure that when those students are in programming, that they feel the sense of love, they feel the sense of belonging. Because a lot of times, if people notice or pay attention to what's happening in the after school program, it's a very unique bunch of students that come. It's those students that may feel like the outcast. It may feel like those students that are shy. They come because they feel like this may be a sense of, maybe I can make friends here. Maybe something can happen. So I feel like it's our fiduciary responsibility to be able to say, like, as a staff member, if I am going to do this, I am going to do this because I have the purpose and because I am dedicated to doing this. So for me, start to finish, I have make sure that when I'm meeting with staff, is asking them, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? Because what I realize a lot of times, especially with the younger groups that get into after school program, they do it because it's just like, it's easy money, or they're in college and it's just an easy job. There's no real dedication, but a lot of people don't know the impact that they can have on students in after school programming. So I talk about the impact, and I make sure that they understand, like, what can really come out of this if we do our due diligence as after school workers.
Right. So, as you train your staff, and for our audience right now at this point, I would appreciate if you can tell them, especially those that are in your area, when you have this great focus and this great point towards after school, what are they getting, and why are you and your staff, you know, so great at the work that you do? What are they going to be getting?
What, like, as far as staff or students?
The students.
Okay. So what makes my team great in doing this work is because I set the standard. For me, I'm always encouraging people that if this is not the work that you want to do, if you don't like kids, don't work an after school program. So, if you don't want to be bothered with students, don't be an after school program. Because when you think about the student, right, what we're dealing with, students, most of the students that go through after school program, well, all of the students that go through after school program, they just spent a full entire day in school, a full entire day where they've been told they can't talk, don't sit in your next to your friends, sit in your assigned seat, don't do this, don't do that. For me, I set expectations for the staff to allow students to come in and to be a little and to have a little freedom. That's where the student voice comes in. That we don't have to be so regiment to where it has to be our way, because students are already being told throughout the entire day what to do, what not to do, how to behave, how not to behave. I'm not saying that we don't set like rules and expectations within the program, because that's very important to have expectations for students when they come. Because the truth of the matter is, we all want some kind of, even at my big old age, I want some kind of structure. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's one of those things to say, you know what, when you come to after school program, there's a structure. But what has to take place is that if the staff show up. I always tell my staff, if you're going through something bad or whatever the case may be, communicate that to me. Because what I need from you is, I need you to show up as your best self to students. Because these students today, they do this thing called a vibe check. And they know when something is off or when something is on. I don't care how you try to mask it, they know. And they are going to ask you about it. Today's students, I say that in a joking way, they are the most realest, disrespectful students in the world sometimes. I mean, I gained a little weight over the holiday, and I remember coming back, and one student just looked me up and down and said, "It looked like you had a good holiday." I was like, "Get out my face." So it's like, so it's the students that that we have to make sure that we're showing up to them. Because the truth of the matter, if we really dig deep, what I've experienced over the years is that students are coming to programming, and in the program that I'm in now, we offer food to the students. So I know that for them, that's going to be the meal that they're going to get that night, because it always goes back to my mind of like, I know that there were times when we were hungry. So that may be the meal that they get for that night. The hug that they get when they come in, that may be the only hug that they'll receive in that day. The encouragement that they receive, they may be, when they come in and they're doing homework and they're in a quiet space, they may go home to chaos. So I tell them that it's our responsibility that when students come here, and I know this is an overused word, but I feel like it all depends how we utilize this word. But when students come into program, they have a safe space. And that safe space may be, I can come and talk to Mr. Dwayne about my problems, and I know that he's going to do anything in his power to help me. I know that when I come to program, I'm going to get a hot meal. I know that when I come, I'm going to see my friends, or I'm going to see people that love me. That is the space that they may experience all of those things that they may not. So as a educator in after school, it's important for us to provide that space. And as I tell them, if you're going through something and you need to go home or whatever the case may be, I would rather you as a staff member to go home, get yourself together, and come back and try it again the next day. But don't project all of that, what you may be going through, on the students, because they're already showing up with enough stuff and they need our support.
What are the biggest challenges facing after school programs today?
Funding.
Mm.
I mean, especially with this administration, and I don't want to harp on them too much, but especially with this administration, we don't know left or right what's going to happen. I mean, we went through a moment of where after school funding was canceled, and then it came back. So you just never know that what we see as important and what we deem is necessary for those students, this administration sees not as important. So there's people right now that are operating out of fear of funding for programming. So it's like the programming that they were offering and all the things that they were offering to students, like there's people that's afraid to hire people. There are people to take field trips with students because they are trying to hold on to money because they don't know what's going to happen with funding. And so funding is one of the biggest struggles right now that I see is the problem, because everyone is operating out of fear and because they just don't know what's going to happen to funding for after school programming.
So, how do you measure the impact of your programs on students and families?
Wow. Great question. When I see families come back and talk and share their experiences, because a lot of times for me, I don't always see the full impact in totality as we're going through the program. But a lot of times it's after the program is over or those students are graduating or doing something. And I remember I had an opportunity to meet a parent through her students in after school program, and her sons graduated high school, and that same year she was able to go back and get her GED and graduate. And well, I think she got a high school diploma and was able to graduate as well. So it's like during those moments where I see the motivation of things that are happening in after school programming or the explorations that students are having. We were able to take students to Canada and from West Philadelphia that had never left or never been on an airplane before. I was able to partner with the Philadelphia International Airport for them to do a tour of the airport for the students. Families that was just like really nervous about having their child go to Canada, but they let me take them, and we had a great time. Those students never left the country before, never even been on an airplane. Um, so that was really great for them to be able to explore that. And I think about the students, honestly, that I still keep in contact with, those students who have graduated high school, out in college right now, or doing whatever they do. And when they text me to let me know how much they care about me, how much they love me, or they just want to give me updates of like what they're doing with their lives. I just had three of my students call me. They were all together and they called me, and I talked to them for almost an hour. They were giving me some life updates, some that I was happy with and some I was not. But however, to be able to just talk to them and keep in contact with them is the greatest source of the outcome of the impact that after school have had on those students, because they want to continue to keep in contact and let me know what's going on with their lives. So it lets me know that in some shape or form, what I was able to establish and what I've done has impacted them in a great way to where they want me to be a part of their life continually.
So, what role should legislators play in supporting after school initiatives?
Money. That's because there's so many opportunities. There's so many opportunities to grow after school programming, and a lot of times it's the funding that really hinders people to be able to do what they want to do. Now, granted, you can get donors, you can do the work, but if people just really pour into if legislation would really just pour into and really understand the necessity of after school programming and support those organizations like the 21st Century Learning Institute that gives out tons of money. It's a federal grant that gives out tons of money to support, but like a lot of people are operating in fear right now, so they don't know what to do. And I think that the way that to negate that fear is to just leave them alone. Like give the money and just let them do what they're doing in programming, because it's very obvious that if we pull students and talk about their impacts in school, no one is saying um, how much they really love geometry or chemistry. I'm not saying they don't love these things, but the majority of the students that I talk to is in those after school programs that when they normally reminisce, I mean, everybody has a favorite teacher, but when we think about what they did in the after school programming, that's where we really see the greatest impact. So why not fund those things so students are able to continue to gain that expanding learning opportunities for them? Because like, why does learning have to stop in the classroom? Why can't we extend that into an after school program where students are learning those life skills that they'll learn academically, but what about the life skills and all of the other things that will go along and support how they would be ready to conquer the world academically and emotionally as a human?
So, tell us, what did receiving the After School Champion Outstanding Program Quality Award mean to you?
Oh, it was so validating. I don't care what people say. Something they don't need people to validate them and all that stuff. Whatever you say, it was validating to me. Because when you work as long as I have in the after school space, and when you do the work and you don't do it for recognition, but when someone takes the opportunity to recognize your contribution to what you've done for so many years, it's validating to feel like, wow, I am really walking and doing what I'm supposed to do. Now, if I never got an award for that, I would be okay with it. However, I was so grateful for it because, as I said, it's just the passion that I have to continue to do this work, it just honestly added more fuel to my fire to help me to realize that I'm walking in the calling that I was called to do.
So let's talk a little bit about your work as an author and creative professional. How has your MFA in creative writing influenced your approach to coaching and teaching?
Um, Through storytelling. I am a storyteller. I love to tell stories, like even in my presenting times and my presenting sessions, or anytime that I'm coaching someone, I lead with the story because like I want them to first realize that you're not the only one. And most of the time the stories are about me. It's about what I've experienced or what I've went through. So I love to be able to tell stories, and I found ways to creatively do that through my creative writing degree. I think about when I am writing, and my competition right now is Chat GPT. Because when I am writing, some people be like, "Did you Chat GPT that?" I'm like, "No, I got a degree and I'm still paying for it."
I know
Right?
that's
So I'm like,
right.
"No, there's no Chat GPT. I am a creative writer." You know, so it's one of those things to where um, being able to tell stories through like my book that I wrote called Are You Okay? Or through my stage plays, when I write those, to be able to authentically tell stories of things that I've experienced, things that I've known others to experience. And it really has helped me to be able to write and tell stories so that people can sometimes see themselves, be encouraged, or to be able to relate, or to just simply entertain. That's how my degree has really been helping me throughout my journey.
So, what themes do you explore most in your writing?
Wow. I think the foundational theme is that you can get through this. Like you will get through this. A lot of times that when we are faced with trials and tribulations, a lot of times we feel like there's just no way out. And I can relate to that right now in my life. There's some things that you go through where you just feel like I don't feel like I'm going to come out of this. But at the end result, when we think about the life that I've seen this quote a lot of times, and I know that many have, but it says that you have survived 100% of your days, or 100% of the things that you've been through. And I always think about that. I think about that even at my worst, or even when I felt tremendously down and that I wasn't going to be able to come out of something. The truth is, I survived it, and was able to be resilient through it. It didn't feel good going through the process, but I love to talk about, where we are and how do we come out of that. I'm really big on dealing with the issue, like dealing with your feelings, stating what you feel and how you feel. And once we identify what that is, begin to do the work to come out of that, and just don't stay in it. Because I think that as humans, we've been so conditioned to not express our feelings or not to be vulnerable. We think about vulnerability as a weakness instead of a strength. And I think that when we have those opportunities to be able to be vulnerable and to share what we're feeling with a trusted person, that's when the real healing becomes. Because a lot of times what happens is we push it under the rug, or we don't discuss the feelings, and then at the most inopportune time we are faced with something, those feelings come from under the rug and they're back on us heavy, along with the new experience. So I'm really big on having people just really, through my writing, to encourage them to be vulnerable, share your feelings, talk about what you're going through. Now once we display and talk about that, now how do we move forward to a better life?
So, how does storytelling help you connect with students and adults?
To relatability. I think that that's really, really big, to be able to create stories, or to be able to share my story of how to help people feel like they're not the only one going through something. A lot of times, this is just what I know to be true because I've been there myself. A lot of times I have not shared things that I've been going through because I feel like it's just me that's going through it. And I worked really hard to come out of that, to try to be as open and as authentic as I can, to be able to share with others, because I don't want them to feel like they're the only ones going through it. So for me, when I'm sharing stories, or even when I'm presenting and I start with the story, it's to set the foundation for people to feel like I feel seen. I always, whenever I see a post and somebody posts something, I usually reshare it and say, I feel so seen. Because a lot of times when we think about the feelings and things that we go through and things that we explore, we just feel like we're the only ones. So I feel like it's always important to share my authentic stories or share stories that I've experienced or witnessed with others so that they can kind of like soften them just a little bit so that they can realize, wow, I'm not the only one going through this. The situation doesn't have to be identical, but because there's some similarities, people feel more open to share with what they're going through. And I can provide some type of guidance to let them know that it's going to be okay.
So, what role does creativity play in personal development?
Oh, because that's how people begin to explore. That's what you begin to know what you like, what you don't like. I always jokingly say this. It's a true story, but and when I was growing up in my household, we didn't eat ranch dressing, and my mom didn't eat it, so we didn't eat it. And it was like I grew up all the way up till I was about 21, 22, not liking ranch dressing. And I think around like 21 and 22, I went to a bar and I was like, I don't want ranch dressing. A little bit of ranch dressing got on my chicken wing and it changed my entire life. And you better not to this day give me chicken wings without ranch dressing. You know, so it's one of those things to where I encourage people to explore things. Like, don't just come out of the gate saying I don't like something without exploring it, because it gives you an opportunity. You may not like every facet of that thing, but there may be some part of it that you do explore that you may like. Um, so that's just the encouragement to be able to be creative, to be able to try things before you just put in your mind, I don't like something, to be able to try and to explore to see what parts of it you may like, or it may be a thing that you absolutely do love. So my encouragement to people is to try everything, try it out. And if you don't like it, you don't like it. But creatively go into it and openly go into it to just explore the possibilities. Because what I love to say is that opportunities don't go to waste, they go to other people. So if you miss out on that opportunity, I learned that from someone when I was working in the modeling and talent agency. And so it was like, don't miss out on the opportunities because it's just going to go to somebody else.
You know, that kind of sounds like something that I said to inspire some of the younger students when I was in grad school. And I would tell them sometimes, because you see how sometimes they take things for granted and they like to slack sometimes. So
Mm-hmm.
I said, thank you for the opportunity. They're like, what opportunity? I said, the opportunity for me to actually finish the top of this class because you're not doing what you're supposed to do. They're looking at me like I'm
That's
crazy.
it. That's
That's
it.
what
That is it.
keep them on the toes.
Yep.
Do you ever sometimes as you're doing your classes, do you try to teach your students about creative writing?
I do. I do. I love to think about how we have, like, in the program that I'm currently working with, is that to have students journal like at the end of a lesson or at the end of something, and self-reflect on what you just learned. I also think about this too, not always in writing, but when I'm talking to a student and explaining to them, I always have them repeat back what they heard me say. It's always different. It's all I'm like, sometimes I don't have an expectation that they're going to say it like verbatim of what I said, but it's just perspective. But it gives them an opportunity to reflect. So I'm always giving individuals and expecting them to write it down. I find that writing can be very cathartic when you're able to just explain through words instead of like verbalizing, because sometimes I know for me, sometimes I can't really say what I want to say. So I'm like, I don't know how to really articulate or get it out, but I can write it and say exactly how I feel to help you understand, and then also help me to understand how to categorize my words and what I want to say. So I'm always encouraging people, even through my coaching, I'm always encouraging people like, hey, reflect, write it down, not necessarily just as an assignment to do, but to also give you an opportunity to go back and to be able to read and look at your growth as well.
Mm. Let's transition over to your work as an entrepreneur. What inspired you to create a human being?
Wow. It came out of the loss of my sister. My sister Ashley, who was my baby sister, passed away in 2000. Going right into 2001 from sickle cell. And when I think about the organization, I think about, with her, it started with my "Are you okay?" topic. And in that experience, what I realized was that I was functioning and not okay. And so people were calling me and asking me to do things and not really checking in on me. They would say like, "How you doing?" And I'd be like, "I'm okay." And then they would just go into telling me what they needed me to do or what they wanted me to do. And so I made a vow to myself that I did not want to be that person, that I wanted to be very intentional about how I checked in on individuals. So I started with "Are you okay?" and began to do um my like a live show on Facebook that turned into a podcast, that turned into a presentation, that turned into you know traveling all over presenting this topic. And then I did a human being because I wanted people to really just start respecting humans. I said, we're all humans, but we're beings. So even the intentionality of the name is a human, period, being, explanation point. So I was very intentional with that because we're all humans. But what are we being? Are we being our authentic self? Are we deciding to be something that we're not? But whatever that may look like, the encouragement was for people to be themselves, and to be respected as humans.
Mm. Um, how did you identify the need for a holistic wellness company?
Through my own personal self-reflection, I knew that I knew what I needed, and what I needed, I didn't see that being provided around me. And maybe it was, but I couldn't identify it. So I wanted to have an identifiable company that people could relate to see like, hey, I feel comfortable with this person. I want to talk to this person. I know him. I trust him. Or even for those who don't know me, that they at least feel my spirit to know that I lead with love and I come with kindness and pure joy. That's just how I live my life. So I wanted to have an identifiable company with, even with as far as like how I post on social media. When people have an encounter with me, I want them to feel that through this individual, I am comfortable to talk to, and that we can begin to do a process where I can start working on my wholeness.
So, with your company and with the work that you do, can you tell us how do you actually connect that to your work that you do within the community?
Really just having people to self-reflect on who they are and what they want to become and what they desire to be. I think a lot of times that we live in, I'll say social media, I'll say individuals in our lives, be it family, traditions, or whatever the case may be. We live a life a lot of times with people telling us who we are or what we should be and what we should be aspiring to be. And so that doesn't allow us to be in a place where we can be who we want to be authentically. That can be living out loud in a same-sex marriage. That can be not wanting to have kids. Like we get to, as a society, a lot of times things that are not familiar in our everyday life, we begin to look down on those individuals. So if a woman says she doesn't want to have kids, then people look at her like, well, like something's wrong with her. Or if a person is like, I never want to be married, people look at them like something is wrong with them. And I think for me, what I like to do is that I want to encourage people, regardless of who you are, what's your background, what's your nationality, what's your sex, whatever it is, that you still have a right to be on this earth. And regardless of what people are trying to tell you who you should be, then walk heavy in who you are. I often say to people that no one can tell me who I am. I've worked really hard to really try to understand me as a person. It doesn't mean that I'm not open to receiving feedback. It doesn't mean that I'm not open to constructive criticism. It doesn't mean any of that. But there are certain things about myself that I absolutely know without a shadow of a doubt because I've done the work. So I don't like when people try to project something on me, I don't allow that to fill my space or to fill my environment because I know what I've worked hard to become. So I really encourage people to try to take that time to self-reflect and to identify who you are so that you don't receive projection from people that's trying to maybe try to walk out through you. It's like one of those things when a show that really used to crack me up is Dance Moms. Like you have these moms that wanted to be dancers all their lives, and now they're pushing their children to want to be dancers, and all they want to do is sit at home and play with dolls. And so it's like a lot of times when people want to live a certain life, it's easy to project that on someone that may appear or seem vulnerable enough to be able to receive that, or just trying to identify who they are. My encouragement to others is to really just try to help them to identify who you are, and whatever that may be, is to help them to walk fully in that, because people will try to project their insecurities on you to become who they want you to be, and you don't always walk in your true calling and purpose.
Wow, that's interesting. How often have you seen parents trying to live vicariously through their children?
All the time. All it's more than all the time. I can tell you, like, I don't want anybody to, I'm not going to say that. No, all the time, all the time, all the time. Especially during this season. Think about those individuals that's standing in front of Walmart and they're pushing cookies. I'm not going to say the name, but they're pushing cookies. A lot of times, you think those girls want to be out there pushing cookies? No, it's like the prizes that come with it that's going to benefit the family. You know, it is what it is. But a lot of times, and I love the cookies. I love to buy it. But a lot of times those kids don't want to be out there doing that. It's like a lot of times I see it so often that we aspire for our kids and for students to be what we think should be. I don't encourage a student to go to college. If that's what you desire to be, I will help you get the tools. But there's so many other things. There's trades. There's all these other things. We know that we have to do something to survive. So what are we going to do to survive that's going to be lucrative to us, that's not going to get us shot, killed, or dead, or in jail, or any of that? What are other avenues that we can do? But a lot of time we try to project things on students because we didn't get the opportunity to do it, or we feel like there's only one way to do things. And the truth of the matter, there's many ways to do a lot of things. It's just about finding the ways to do it. I see it all the time.
So well, what makes your approach to well-being different from traditional coaching models?
I think that because I'm just real with it, I just kind of put it out there to like get people to really explore who they are. We just get to the root of it. Providing that space to say, like, hey, this is what it is. And the only way that this work is going to be fulfilled is if you be honest with what's going on with you. Share what you will and share what you won't, whatever the case may be. But in this space, whenever I'm coaching someone, I want to offer them a space where they can share whatever they feel, knowing and trusting that it's not going to leave this space, but to be open to receiving the feedback that I'm going to give. A lot of times in my coaching style, I don't give advice. It's not about advice, because the truth of the matter is we already know the answer. We just need we need to talk it out sometimes. A lot of times when we know that, when we're trying to make a decision, there may be times where we absolutely don't know, but a big percentage of the time we know what we want to do. We know what we desire to do. We're just afraid to do it. So my biggest thing is how to operate through fear, and how to maneuver through and do that thing that you want to do. I'm working on a new project right now that's going to really help individuals really know how to maneuver through fear, because fear honestly is like the biggest thing that stops us from doing a lot of the things that we do. When we look at the foundation of why we don't achieve things or why we don't do things, a lot of it is rooted in fear. It can be the fear of the unknown. It's the fear of, it can be the imposter syndrome. We fear that we don't deserve it. We don't believe that we deserve to be in certain spaces, and we don't receive that when we get into that space that we're supposed to be here. So when I think about like my coaching style, is really to help people to maneuver through the foundational thing that I have found to be the number one thing that stops us from living our best life, and a lot of it is fear.
Well, we when we chatted earlier, and I told you we do Black History 365, and I asked you who were the most influential persons in your life and career. You mentioned to me both of your grandmothers and your uncle. Can you tell us how has Black history shaped your personal mission?
Wow, I love being black. God, Lee, I love it. I love it. I love
Okay.
being black, and I think that we are some of the most, if not the most creative individuals. If you look at what we do in our culture, there's many people that come behind us and try to mock what we do. They try to take the style. If they can't quite get it, they try to figure out another way to do. They repackage it and try to do it a different way. I think that in Black culture, my encouragement, honestly, is like it goes back to people projecting things on us, not letting us, just because we have a concern about something, it doesn't make us angry. It doesn't make us people that you can't work with us if we vocal how we feel, or vocalize how we feel. I think that when I think about Black history, I am just so proud of what we've been able to achieve and what we've been able to withstand, regardless of the times that we are in now that are still trying to keep us down. I am just so proud of those Black entrepreneurs who are out there doing their thing, regardless of how people are trying to make them not. I'm just really proud of the history and where we are, where we were, and where we have been, and where we are now, to where Black people are really being bold and being creatives, and they're walking out and they're doing the things that they're passionate about. So it just makes me proud to be a Black man, and to be able to see other creatives in education, in film, and television, and after school, in entrepreneurship, that's really just, regardless of the circumstances of life and what we may be experiencing, that they are walking authentically in their Blackness, and it just makes me so proud.
So tell us, why are your grandmothers such powerful influences in your life?
Wow. And I'm gonna try not to get emotional talking about them, but they both are still with us. One of my grandmothers called me right before this, and I gotta call her back. But they are so powerful in my life because I've witnessed them all, both of them, go through things that I never heard them complain about. I have one grandmother who went through cancer, and even when I was at my lowest, she came to take care of me, um, from Florida. And then my other grandmother, just watching her endure and just go through and see the impact that she had on me growing up, like making sure that I was in church and making sure that I had a relationship with God. Even if I didn't understand that relationship then, I understand it even more now. And I credit her, because if it had not been for her, my prayer life and my faith and my relationship with God would not be where it is today if I was never introduced to that. So shout out to both of them, because I do have a feeling that they both may be watching, because they're on social media, and it cracks me up. Every time I see a comment from my grandmother, I'm like, girl, what are you doing on social media? I'm like, what are you doing on here? But it's just been amazing to be able to know that I can call them and talk to them and give advice. My grandmother, Dolores, we always jokingly say, if people heard the conversations that we had on the phone, they'd be like, "That's no way that's your grandson. That's like your best friend." Because we really talk about the nitty gritty, and I'm grateful to have I have someone in my life that I can share the good, bad, the ugly with no judgment, and to be able to just talk freely to her about whatever it is in life, and to be able to have that sound foundation to be able to just have that support.
So, what lessons did they teach you that you still carry today?
Oh, my one of the things that my grandmother always say to me, my grandma Lois would always say to me, is always keep $5 in your glove compartment. I think it graduated to 20 now, but when I first got a car, she was like, always keep money, like always keep a 20 in your glove compartment, because you never know you're gonna run out of gas or whatever the case may be. And I still do that till this day. Um, until I want a Pepsi or something, I may have to use that 20 or whatever. But and sometimes I forget to put it back. But no, that's one of the lessons that she taught me. But I think that one of the sure foundation lessons that my grandmothers both have taught me is really just about integrity and just doing the right thing, even when it may not be popular. I think like those are the lessons that I will take with me for the rest of my life. When I think about like my grandmother, we call her Grandma Pee Wee, but her name is Lila. Um, but even thinking about, her commitment and dedication to what she's done, like as far as her church, and then like how she was able to be on her job for a very long time and retire, like that's true dedication. So even though I don't think that they I don't have a I don't think that they even realize the the foundational things they were instilling in me, just by being the examples of who they are. It wasn't always in the words, but it was always in the action. Like they've shared a lot of foundational things with me verbally, but just by watching their actions have really helped me a lot.
So, how did your uncle shape your understanding of leadership and service?
Well, I think when I think about my uncle, one of the things that he talked to me about like I hope this makes sense. One of the things that my uncle was really big on is allowing me to just be free and be myself. And I think like in that helps a lot with leadership as well, because then it's like I don't have to show up as anything else other than my authentic self. And I think that in leadership, if people can get with that, the more people that can relate to you in that sense, the more people that are willing to follow you, or the more people will be able to trust what you say. That if you show them, through your actions, that they'll trust what you say and they'll take your lead. They'll follow your lead when they can trust what you say. And so I relate back to my uncle, because one of the things that he used to allow me to do is cook in his kitchen. And I don't care if it was the most expensive steak, if it was lobster tail or whatever the case may be, he gave me room for error. And I think like, and to talk through the error. And I think as a leader, you have to be willing to accept and take accountability when things don't always go right. And as I said, like he don't realize that that's what he was teaching me. But in those moments, whenever I would cook right, he would just tell me, start over. He was like, it's another steak in there, start over. I remember one of my very much trial and errors was like learning how to make gravy before like from scratch, and like he'll be like, this ain't it, start over, and he allowed me to do that. And he would allow me to say like, what was your error, what do you think you went wrong, and how can you fix it? And I think as a leader, you have to be able to be accountable for when mistakes happen so that your team can trust. So anything that my uncle would tell me whenever I was cooking in the kitchen and I would make a mistake and talk about my error, what he told me to fix or how to fix it, I trusted what he said because it allowed me to make it better. And the truth of the matter, every time he corrected it, it would always come out better. Now, like I said, do he realize in that, like when he was teaching me that, I don't know if he realized that he was teaching me that component of leadership. But for me in my adult life, when I go back and reflect on how I was learning about leadership, that's one of the ways that I learned about how to be a leader, is to be accountable in all my actions.
Mm. So, what stories from your family history inspire your work?
Wow. I think about being raised in a single parent household. Just my mom just really pushing through and doing whatever she needed to do to make sure that my siblings and I were able to have. And it may not have been much, but it was what we had, and we had each other. So I think about like all of the stories that when we had to really spend time together with, within our household, the moments we were running around the house playing hide and seek within the house, or the moments we were just doing like playing whatever, like school. Or I remember the first time we got a computer in the house. Oh my gosh, it was an old computer. It was a big back box. Well, it was old. It was old. And I just think like about like the different things that we were able to experience. Even thinking about the resilience that we all had to endure whenever my sister would get sick and have to go into the hospital, where there would be times where she would have to go into the hospital for like weeks at a time due to her sickle cell. That I felt like those moments only bonded us together even more as siblings. And then just watching all of us now grow up and to be out doing our own thing and living our lives. And my sisters have kids, and me and my brother, we don't have kids yet. But just knowing that, those memories of being able to be resilient with each other and being able to support each other, they really impact me in my life today.
So, how do you honor their legacy through your career?
Just making sure that, wow, that's a great question. How I really honor that is just continuing to be a leader. Like I've led family, like my family, like being like the man of the house and leading my siblings and just teaching them different things. And, being a leader figure in a life of someone that may not have a father at home, that may not have a close relative or a big brother or whatever the case may be. How I honor that legacy is always to show up as someone that makes others feel like you're not alone in this. You have a big brother, you have an uncle, you have a father figure, or whatever you need me to be. I'm that person in your life, and I'm going to lead you and help you figure out, whatever it is you may need to figure out, or however you need to live your life. Like I'm there to support you in that. I feel like I'm a great supporter. Like I feel like, I always want to be that person to show up for people, even sometimes when it doesn't feel like I want to. I want to be able to be that person to show up to let people know that you are not alone. That's super important to me.
So I want to get to this part here. That this is just this is some special questions that I came up for you because today is a special day,
Okay.
and we're going to talk about advanced human behavior and your future vision. What led you to pursue a PhD in advanced human behavior?
I'm fascinated with humans, but not in a creepy way. I tell people all the time, like, don't run away from me. I'm not a creep, I promise you. But I'm fascinated with humans because I think about the things. I'm like, what make us do the things that we do, and what can I do to support you in the things that you do? So it's like I understand a liar. I don't want you to lie, but I understand that I've been there. I've been in situations where I've had to lie because I'm like the fear of judgment of what people may think about me or what they may say. So when people would ask me, I'm like, no, that's not the case, or whatever the case may be. It wasn't like I just wouldn't be honest about my life. I just wouldn't say anything about it. So for me, and when I reflect, I was like, what made do that? Like the fear of being out there or the fear of having a flaw because we've been so conditioned that a lot of times if something is wrong with us, it's like it's wrong with us. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things to where I became fascinated with humans to really help them to navigate their life and to be able to have that support system. So I wanted to really like understand how the brain operates and how it works so that I can better support individuals in whatever conditions they may be going through.
How does this research deepen your work with youth and adults?
Behavior wise, because it's like the behaviors when I focus on the behaviors, and it really helps me honestly to not focus on the conscious but more so the subconscious. And so whenever I'm really talking to individuals, I'm helping them to really realize that sometimes when we react to certain things, it's not what we do consciously. It's sometimes a childhood trauma, something that we thought that we buried way in the back that will come up inside of us to make us realize a situation. I remember I was in a situation. I'm going to try to tell this story without really putting it out there, but I'm going to tell the story. I remember this one time I was in a meeting, and the meeting really didn't have anything to do with me. I was really there as a support. Um, but the moment the individual who was hosting the meeting was getting upset and started like banging on like tables and screaming, it triggered something in me to make me feel like, oh, this is from my childhood when I was getting in trouble. Like my mom would, this is how my mom would react. Like I'm in trouble. So in that moment, it tensed something up in me to really check out and become defensive. And so I realized that that was a subconscious thing that I needed to deal with because anytime someone raises their voice or you get loud, I instantly check out and become defensive. So it's like I didn't want that thing to be a part of me. So it's like I needed to learn and to be able to begin to heal that subconscious thought so that I don't react or feel defensive when someone comes off and says something that they may not agree with. I don't have to respond in that way. I can learn to listen and to be able to take what they're saying instead of being ready to defend when I feel like I'm being attacked. So I think that with the studying that I've done, it's really helped me to really understand the subconscious a lot and to be able to help people to realize it's not the actual, a lot of times it's not the actual situation that has happened, but a lot of times it's the subconscious of something that has happened to us that brings up a memory that kind of puts us in defense mode that makes us respond the way that we do.
Can I just ask you, because I mean, I have another question, but that's really interesting, and I love to hear that. But is that more as to when you're thinking about the subconscious, are you thinking about the intention?
Yes. A lot of times when we're thinking about like the intent of like what's happening, right? When we think about, somebody does us wrong or whatever the case may be, and we think like consciously we want to get them back or whatever the case may be. But I'm mostly focusing on like the intent of like when we're in situations where we feel like, oh, our backup is against the wall, or where we normally feel attacked, or where we normally feel is not necessarily the what was said, is a lot of times how it was said or what triggered the thought process of like, you know, it could, I'll give you another example. Somebody, if you know that growing up, somebody would look at you like as being a dishonest person or whatever the case may be. Somebody begins to question you. It's not always the fact that they're questioning you. It's the thought that, oh, now you think that I'm a liar. So Right. So it's like, now let's get to the root of that. It's not that I'm asking you where you've been. You don't. I'm just asking you where you've been. I don't. There's nothing behind it. And I'd be like, oh, okay, you went there. And then it's like, oh, now I'm lying. It's like, it's not about. I didn't call you a liar. It's your subconscious that's telling you that. Oh, he thinks you're lying, or she thinks you're lying. So now I got to be defensive. And now in your defense, now I'm questioning and looking at you like, wait, now are you lying? Because it's like the response of it. So, so it's like really helping people to realize that a lot of times things that we feel that we may have buried, or things that we feel like we got rid of, a lot of times the subconscious would check us to let us know, oh, you really didn't get over that, or that's still that generational thing that's still there, or something from your childhood that's still there aggravating you, that will make you respond in a way that you really didn't want to respond. It's just that your defense made you respond that way.
What do you believe is the future of the after school programming in America?
Whew. I pray that is long lasting. I pray that in the next 3 years we'll have a new administration, and and they'll come in and realize the importance of after school program and the impact that it's having on the world. I'm so grateful for organizations that are out there that's advocating. There's this big rally that's getting ready to happen in Pennsylvania, in Harrisburg, that's coming up, for an organization that I used to work with called Poseidon, and they focus on after school programming, and they go out and they let students speak. And I feel that a lot of students are now starting to speak up on the impact of how after school has changed their lives. And I just sincerely pray that the funding is there to support it, and that even in those times where funding may seem scarce, that people don't get discouraged in that they really spend the time and keep pushing forward to find other means to make it happen. Because I feel like if there's a space, yes, you need funding to run a business. I get that 100%. But if there is a space where you can put students in a room and to be able to be creative, because even in the funding or the lack thereof, there's still ways to be creative with students. There's still ways to do free things and projects, and be creative and explore the outdoors and do all of these things. So I just hope that because of the lack of funding, that people don't get discouraged and feel like this that this field can't be lucrative, that we can't make an impact, that we keep pushing. That's what I hope.
So, what is your long-term vision for a human being?
I want to continue to grow through my organization, like through a human being. Like, I'm doing a lot more consulting now. I do consulting with Boost Collaborative. I want to continue to speak with individuals about offering quality programming, establishing programming. I want to continue to travel around the United States, just helping individuals with their after school programs, mentoring and coaching teachers and individuals and principals, superintendents, everybody about after school programming and the impact. With a human being, I want to continue to coach those individuals who are looking for a life coach or a motivational coach, or whatever they need. I want to be that person that draw people to say, like, hey, we are all humans on this earth, but what are we being? Are we being our best selves? Are we being our authentic selves? Are we being who we have been called to be? And I want to continue to make that impact through a human being.
Last question. What impact do you hope to leave on the world when your work is done?
Mm. I hope that when I leave this earth, that people will remember that. There's so much I can say about this, but I want to keep it simple. I just want people to feel that I was a person that they feel that I saw them. That if they had an encounter with me, that they felt loved, appreciated, that they felt that in my presence, they felt seen, that they felt like a human, that they felt individualized, that they felt that being in my presence impacted them in such a great way that there was no bad vibes. It was all a good vibe. That whoever I come in contact with, that they have a lasting impression that will be one that's positive and encouraging to their heart.
So, in closing, can you please leave our audience with some words of wisdom encouragement, how they can connect with you via your social media, your website, how to get your book, all of those good things.
Absolutely. My encouragement to everyone is really just I have been in this place right now of really just thinking about authenticity and the importance of it. And what I when I say that is really honestly encouraging everyone to just be true to themselves because I feel like that is the greatest courage, right? I think the world tells us and social media and different things tells us what we should aspire to be. Like success looks like a big house. Success looks like we're driving the best car or whatever the case may be. But be authentic to who you are because I feel like that is the greatest encouragement. And I feel that authenticity really attracts the right people and the right opportunities into our life. So when you are authentic in who you are, you're going to attract those things that are meant to be into your that are meant to be in your life. And to really just encourage people to really just pursue your passion relentlessly, regardless of what is life. I feel like life is just extremely too short to not really pursue the things that set your soul on fire. So I feel like if you that people should just follow their passion and the rest will fall into place. So if it's something that you desire to do that thing. Don't let people put the amount of time that you need to do it or how you should do it, but go forth and do that thing and to really just live in the present, to take the past as a lesson and to really make the most of the moments that we are in right now. As I said, life is too short. And I think that my encouragement to everyone is to really just believe in your journey. It's your journey, it's unique to you, it's your time, it's your process, it's your faith, and wherever you're headed and wherever you want to go, believe in your own journey and don't let other people have a say or dictate what that journey looks like. So that is my encouragement to everyone. If you want to follow me on social media, you can just search Dwayne Wiggins Jr. Or you can go to my website at www.dwaynevandrake.com. That's DWAYNE VONDRAKE.com. And you can also purchase my book through the website. If you click on the book tab, you'll be able to purchase my book, Are You Okay? Here's a copy right here so that you can see. But this is my book. So if you want to purchase it, please feel free to visit my website and you can find all of my social medias on there as well.
Well, before I close, I want to give you guys this little nugget. We actually booked this show like maybe 6 or 7 months ago.
Yes.
And this time has finally come around, and I am so proud and so happy to have you here on the show here in season 4 because it's really impactful. And I just want to thank you and encourage you to continue what you're doing because your work is very, very important. And if ever, well, we hope we can get you back for one thing. But, if ever you need our support in your journey as you're continuing, you have a platform here and we can definitely be here to help you.
Thank you so
So,
much. I just want to I just want to say this really
yeah,
quick, and I just want to thank you so much for the work that you're doing and a platform like this to be able to talk and to share. As you said, 6 or 7 months ago we booked this, and I was looking forward to today, and I'm so glad that it finally came, and just to be able to talk with you and answer the questions that you had today just really got my mind going on so many things. So as soon as it's over, I'm going to stop and I'm going to journal about this, reflect on it. But I'm just so grateful for this opportunity and this platform to be a part of season 4 and to just really American and Black and White. It's just a great organization and platform to be on. So thank you so much for the opportunity.
so in closing, every leader has a story, but not every leader turns that story into service. Today, we heard from a man who has dedicated his life to building spaces where young people can grow, adults can heal, and communities can thrive. Dwayne Wiggins Jr. reminds us that wellness is not a luxury, it is a necessity. That education is not just academic, it is human. And that leadership is not about titles, it is about impact. As we close today's conversation, let us carry forward the message that growth is possible, healing is possible, and transformation is possible when we commit to becoming better human beings. Thank you for joining us for another episode of America in Black and White. Stay informed, stay inspired, and stay committed to the work of becoming. Thank you all. Have a great evening. We will see you guys tomorrow for another great show. For those of you that are watching on all of our channels, including the YouTube channels, if you have not yet subscribed, I would hope that I could get you guys to support us by subscribing and enable all notifications, and you're able to catch all of our shows when they go live, as well as go back and watch our previous shows. Thank you guys. Have a great Sunday evening, and we'll see you tomorrow. Thank you again, Dwayne.
Thank you.